Oh baby, it's time for a vlog. Yeah, girl.
That is called the proximity effect. And those are clouds. And without getting too goofy about everything, I'm going to talk about psychoacoustics and the environments without getting emotional about it. It's one of the only things that can make me sometimes emotional. I work with environments a lot, and they're, in other words, space around sound, and the proximity effect that I use there. If you think about it in life, we exist in space, and I'll be friendly for now. Might have to shoot them later, but we exist in space, and every sound that you've ever heard comes from some sort of space, you know. And even the clouds, if you think about it really hard, when you work a lot in film and post-production, and even clouds, you associate those with a certain sound, even though they're not giving off a sound. You're always, you see what I mean? Think about a film strip with silent clouds going by, what that says to you, okay? And think about that for a second, because we associate, you know, even clouds. It's crazy. Psychoacoustics. It's a whole branch of acoustic sciences, and so you think about that, a silent film strip of clouds. Even clouds are in an environment that we human beings normally associate with an environment, you know. When it's dead silent on a film strip, it has a whole other emotional impact. It's kind of eerie and haunting and all kinds of stuff, you know. And that proximity effect that I use, the only time that you'll get that exact tone, timbre, and feeling and type of sound is when somebody is right up in your ear, and it's usually sort of a sexy situation, you know. And these are really powerful things. I notice that a lot of women respond extremely powerfully to my voice and some of the stuff that I do. And really, when you think about it, the only time that you hear that kind of "yeah baby" right up in your ear thing, or with a woman, imagine that. If you're a woman, imagine a guy. Whatever your preference as a guy, imagine a woman. The only time you actually hear someone direct with that tone and timbre and that the characteristics are when they're right up in your ear. Same thing when you get on a mic. There's a thing called the proximity effect, with certain polar patterns of mics and stuff. But generally, when you get up on a mic, it captures that sort of characteristic. So, I mean, really, the only time I've ever heard like a woman, you know, that characteristic in real life is when she's right in my ear when we're, you know, getting busy. So when you transfer that, when you record it that way, subliminally, people, you know, I don't even think they realize it, but women sort of respond to that. Like Barry White must have had a hell of a time in life, you know. And these are powerful things. And, you know, one of the other points I want to make, there are a lot of different schools of thought of recording. And one way is to include the environment with microphones in a big wooden room, and the environment plays a part with room miking, you know, things. Or you can directly mic things where you're close miking, you're up on the mic with your voice, and not always proximity, just an inch away. It's not proximity effect. It's not that deep, rich thing. But direct miking in such a way that the room doesn't play a part in the equation. And then nowadays the technology is there. I work in Logic Pro. There's a lot of them, and there's a lot of plugins you can buy and stuff. But they have a plugin called Space Designer, and it is what it says. It allows you to design spaces from direct audio, so you don't need the rooms, these big wooden rooms and all this stuff. Just the direct signal clearly recorded, and I can place that in any environment that I can possibly imagine. I normally create my own. I'll start off with one of theirs and edit it for sometimes. I'm insane, clearly, but you know, it has such an impact. And when you get a rock and roll mix or any type of mix going where every instrument is coming not only from its own, that wind's probably going to screw me over, but is coming from its own environment, it gives that illusion of control. And environments do it. There's so much psychoacoustics in life and in music, you know. I follow the work that they do at the Large Hadron Collider. A quick digression, but it has to do with this, the particle collider in CERN, because they're looking at finding out, they're trying to find the nature of the universe and all this stuff, the God particle, if you will. But what they've recently found out is that I like the sound of that plane. Exactly, I was looking at the style model. But anyway, what they found out is that we are a result of space and time, and the Higgs boson, the particle, and the field, though. We are a result, follow me on this, of this field, right? Not the other way around. This field of reality doesn't exist because of us. We exist because of it. And so space-time, basically. I think they're going to keep going levels and levels and levels and never find the end of it forever. But anyway, the point is, in environments, sound exists always in an environment, and it's a characteristic of it, and you can tailor your sounds. Your whole life, you've become accustomed. Those planes in the air, we've always heard them. Those huge, deep, long waves, fully developed, hitting us and bouncing back and up against clouds, probably. Think about a film strip of silent planes going by. It's a different thing. There's two beautiful jets up there, but it's a different experience. So what I'm trying to say is, when I first started doing audio, I just used to hate reverb. And I'm not talking about big reverb. Typically you have a small one, like a closet or whatever, and you can adjust every parameter of it, from how many times it echoes off the walls to how close those walls are to how everything, the density of those echoes. But if you, and I'm not talking about drowning it, in effects. I'm talking about first creating a small environment, particularly for guitars, electric guitars. You hear it all the time in very famous recordings, where it's what grabs your ear, and it sounds like, oh my God, that's excellent, it's wonderful. But a small environment first, and then feed that into typically a small one, and then a larger actual effect. The first one's more create a small environment, and the second one is more of an effect. But the first one, the small environment, is the one I just used to thought that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard, and I didn't like it reverb at all. But now it's my favorite thing. If I had one thing to choose, I'd choose, 3 different sizes of reverbs, because you can create many more interesting psychoacoustic effects with depth with those. And I'm talking as far as a setting, whatever sounds good. It's the great thing about audio, whatever sounds good. However, I'm talking about like on the settings, like maybe between 1% of close reverb to like a maximum of 3, 5, 7% maximum, maybe 10 if you want an exaggerated effect. The gated reverbs and stuff are sort of, it's a different thing. But what I'm trying to get you to do is, if you work in music and follow me, is to experiment with putting environments on things and seeing how they make you feel when they come from different environments. I was doing something last night with it's got like a nice little sort of, it was saxophones. I did it on guitar and made them sound like saxophones, but a section in it where there's a saxophone section, it just didn't have the feel. And when I just put it in a simple kind of closet environment, all of a sudden it opened up, and it had this amazing feeling to it. And what these things insinuate to your subconscious, or there's so much. And psychoacoustics in music, I mean, I use the proximity effect, or in film work, the environment's clouds, silent clouds versus clouds with some ambience around them. Two completely different things. It's subtle, but it's very powerful. It's there. But stuff like harmonies, the very word harmony suggests, smooth flowing, harmonious, working together, friendships. And that's why that we loved, John Lennon and Paul McCartney so much. When they harmonize together, you just know these guys are friends, and they work well together. They're not only working together, they're reaching a whole other level of expression, a higher plane of expression together. You can hear it in their voices. That's another psychoacoustic effect. Not quite as much to do with the environments, but sort of. But typically there's tons of those things. I mean, not only in the content of the music, the style. Like you may have a rock song playing along with a sample of like a little Dixieland thing. The content, Dixieland has a very unique style that's instantly recognizable, and just a smattering of it while a whole mix is going on. It's sort of not only psychoacoustically, but subconsciously suggests a certain feel, So stuff like that, what I'm saying is psychoacoustics is fun. It's what makes a mix interesting for me. But a small reverb, a close reverb, use that to create an environment for a vocal. Always on vocals, I do all the time. 1% of like a little closety thing. It spreads it out side to side in the mix, plus back and forth. And this is all assuming that you've created more density or more richness and depth already by properly compressing and EQing, which without any effects at all. Always get your compression and EQ. Those are more utilitarian. They can be used as effects, but they're really more sort of utilitarian to get the actual signal positive. And I'm not talking drowning stuff in effects. I'm talking about using them to add depth that you don't really it's not obvious, I mean, I covered one psychoacoustic effect. I haven't even talked about modulation, which another fella I gotta shoot, he just looks like a stranger. I haven't even talked about modulation, chorus, flange, phase shift, you name it. But one thing about, you'll notice I was trying to recreate a very famous, and did actually. Sometimes I recreate stuff and it's too much like the original, so I can't do anything with it. It's just like big deal. You recreated this or that. But all the time with guitars, I'm trying to get a tube amp sound from all of this sort of what can be cold digital stuff and finesse out of it, a tube, very tube-like sound, rich and warm. But there's a certain intangible. I love those. They call them rain crows. Anyway, hold on. Bear with me. So and to really get, I may post this one yet. I don't know. I try not to give specific examples, because just by speaking in sort of generalities, a couple of people have taken things a lot further, general ideas and general philosophy and physics and stuff in music or in sound, than I would have taken it by giving them a specific idea. So I just try to lay general ideas out there. But here's the thing. Guitars, to simulate a tube amp on a guitar, and you've already recorded it absolutely clean, there's nothing on it, put an amp emulator on it, it's close but no cigar. Bring out some modulation. Usually I like chorus better than flange. Flange kind of sounds phony baloney. They all have their use and I love them all, they're great, but they're essential with modulation. I haven't talked about it, I'll talk a little bit about it. put like 1 to 3%, not where you can hear it up front or even be aware, sort of aware, but not really. Put chorus like 1 to 3% on a guitar and adjust the rate if you're trying to get that tube amp sound. And what you'll realize is that all of those old school, really smooth sounding tube amps and preamps and gear had a certain type of very low level of modulation going on built into the tubes that made them very pleasant. They accentuated even order harmonics, and so that made them, there's a certain magic, like if you listen to the first few notes of Steely Dan reeling in the years, that very bell-like tone of the guitar, or it's all over the place, even in AC/DC's guitars sometimes. I could shoot that. Gotta shoot the dog. But, gotta shoot them all. The thing is that, just to kind of give you some ideas and stuff and how things are done, how they actually happened, from the original gear, why they sounded that way, and then so you can recreate them. But I'm talking touches of things, to 1% to 3% of chorus, so you can't hear it. Another great way to use chorus, I did it on, I did a Rolling Stones, and the line before, it just goes like, there's a real high note that I hit where my voice sounds sort of just stupid and garage band like, and like an amateur idiot, and everybody does all the time, this kind of stupid kind of sound. I made it so that follow me here, my limiter or my compression was set, and a tiny bit of chorus was set up so that when the dynamics, the highs of the loudness of my voice got there, it choruses. And what choruses does is or modulation does, it breaks up a frequency's primary frequency and its resultant frequencies. Anyway, it's right before, I don't need a whore, don't need no booze, but I go like, ooh, and it breaks that up to where it sounds very smooth and professional. So only that note, I set it so that it would only hit. That's what makes, the two times that there's like a little thing like that in there. But that's what mixes interesting and professional, is that there's little touches all the way through. Sometimes I'll listen to an entire song just to hear one note because it's just so perfectly laid right in there, There's definitely gonna shoot him. Nice moon out. So, I'm just trying to throw some ideas out there, and I do a vlog anyway every day, and some people don't really understand how deep this stuff goes. Every single note on every instrument is gone over and considered, and sometimes I make entire tracks for just one vocal note or one guitar note because it's not doing what I want it to do, and you have to get that specific in a way, because every kid in the world now has all of these tools, and they're all just pumping out sometimes great stuff, but just a lot of garbage too. So if you want to set yourself aside, do great mixes, but also it's fun to listen to. People will come back and over and over again. But the other thing that I like to do, then I'll probably close this one, is just experiment with a small reverb, create an environment. And to recap, you can close mic things so the room doesn't, I love using expensive mics and wooden and concrete rooms and mixtures and Neve and SSL, but I don't have all that here. That's okay, I can recreate pretty much dead on, or even more. Follow me here. I can create sometimes certain styles or feels. I did something from Trent Reznor, one of his Nine Inch Nails songs, and I named it. I put it on his site to piss everybody off, and just for the hell out. It's just fun. A lot of kids over there, but I named it more Reznor than Reznor. So anyway, I don't even remember what it was, but in other words, by getting the gestalt of the feel of the song technically, and the feel of it artistically, so you can sometimes exaggerate that for fun and profit, whatever, or just create interesting mixes. Apply, I don't know, you know, you see what I'm saying? Apply uh, uh, Nine Inch Nails style, for instance, to Neil Young and see what happens. The more you have in your toolbox, the better. But a little touch of modulation to get close on that, chorus, flange, bass, combinations of any. A little touch goes a long ways, and it's good when you try it when you can't get something to fit into a mix that's hot, that has a lot of mid-range and sort of nasally, annoying mid-range. Although I hate using it because it breaks up the strong root. It's by definition sort of a phase shift. It's an essential thing to know, and I use it sparingly. But the other thing is, all of this stuff sparingly. Anybody can just take and slap on some reverb and slap on some chorus, and it's so common to hear, like, brute force, sort of clumsy use of these things, where it's like it's not even interesting. So, a couple of places I did cover, actually. I was going to say, and then I'll quit this vlog. But I covered in one of the songs I did. What's neat about doing your compression and your EQ and getting your signal tight on. I did a cover of a Nine Inch Nails or Trent Reznor song, Something I Can Never Have, and I made it where the loud parts of my voice naturally burst into this huge reverb, but that's the only time, and it doesn't sound generated or fake. And I do that a lot. Whenever the signal exceeds a certain point on the compressor, it bursts into it naturally, whether it be a modulation or reverb or whatever. It bursts naturally into an effect like that, and it just adds so much. Like, oh wow, this is totally pro. It makes it interesting, where people will come back and listen over and over again. But a little goes a long way. But to recap it, small reverb, play with every parameter on it till it sounds, like it's a real environment, that you want it to come from, or exaggerate it to give it. All of these have I didn't want to get into it. A small reverb, play with every parameter, a medium reverb, and usually the small and large one will work, but small, medium, and large. But, things from the time of cavemen with environments, they are ingrained, and they all have a meaning, a psychoacoustic meaning, just like the proximity effect. Reverb, these things are genetic, and to totally end the vlog now, as I've said a couple of times, I know they go long. Some people are really into audio and interested, and that's my favorite thing in the world. But, imagine how you've had a hard day. You're a caveman. You've had a hard day. Two of your friends were killed on a hunt. A woolly rhinoceros. You come back, and it's raining, pouring rain, and an enemy tribe has run you out of your cave. And you find another one late at night with your carrying, your kids and dragging your wife along, and the whole tribe is beaten down. And then the old shaman, you find the safety of a cave, and the shaman begins to sing the story of your people and your tribe in this cave, and his voice resonates through the cave, a gentle song, and he tells the story of your people and how they've survived for forever, hundreds of thousands. They've been there forever. They will be there forever. And you sleep better that night, But that echo has become part of us. We sense the reverbs. We sense environments. We associate them with safety, comfort, sometimes food, sex, love. All the things they trigger certain emotions, and if you get to learn to play with those, But it's genetic. The people who hung out in caves and learned to find them for hundreds of thousands of years, the ones that learned about this echo or space, just not even meaning to, survive. The other ones didn't, So play with them, environments, because it really, it's sort of the final thing in mixing that can make stuff incredibly engaging, or without them, Sometimes everything bone dry is cool in the gang, but depending on the style you're shooting for, I always try to think what serves the song artistically. So, just some ideas, throwing them out there. It's my favorite thing. I think some people don't realize they even have magazines, Mix magazine and stuff. I think something I've done has been in there years and years ago. But anyway, there's a whole magazine about people who like mixes, and that's what we love about music. Some really nice, rich, like very low mids in an airplane like that. People, poltergeist ending. I hope some of this is helpful. Poltergeist ending with airplane ambient. This vlog is clear.